welcome to this episode of Work the Left Side. I am joined this week by Mr. Lawson. Well, Mr. Lawson.
Whichever.
I'll be polite. I'll address you as Mr. Lawson for now. Yeah. Dude, how's it going? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Come off a night shift this morning and stayed awake, so I'm nice and energised.
Thank you. Obviously, I spoke to a good friend of yours last Monday night, the day after he'd been to go to see All In, so he was sleep deprived. Now I'm speaking to you. It sounds like it's appreciated. I do appreciate it. I wouldn't have blamed you if you'd have just been like, "Nah, we'll do it another day." But thank you very much for joining me. I've just mentioned him. Obviously, last week I talked to Mr. Jay Vertigo, your partner in crime at times. How did that come about? Obviously, you two guys have known each other for years. I mean, you sent me like a video. One of your first matches, I think. Well, first time obviously you two have got in the ring against each other. Broken noses. It's a friendship built around broken bones.
Definitely. The match I sent you was in Goal. We were a bit of a tournament at MegaSlam at the time. Obviously, winner going on to become the first MegaSlam champion, which was me. Managed that match with a broken nose. We did the hip toss reversal, and he was meant to flip over my head, but he brought his knee up, bang, square in kisser, squirting for about 10 minutes.
That's the thing, man. That's why I've got nothing but you guys are just absolutely. It just shows how much you must just love wrestling, dude. You're just willing to do that to yourself. But just cracking on. Again, people have spoken about adrenaline and stuff like that. By the sounds of it, it's an amazing thing. It can get a lot of people through a lot of matches when needed. Adrenaline is not to be underestimated.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a few instances back and forth. I mean, I've given him his fair share of injuries, I suppose. I think I broke his foot at one point doing a body slam. Not sure how I managed that, but it happens. Well, it's been a bit back and forth.
As long as you can smile about it, and you're a team nowadays. So I know I've been trying to plug for you guys to, give Misery Business a bit of a kick in. So I'm still working on that. I'm still trying to get it to happen. Because in your words, I know you want to kick a few Marty Dossers.
Marty Dossers, that's the one. Can't wait.
Another thing you sent me was working All-Star, dude, at 17. Obviously anybody knows British wrestling, knows the holiday camps, knows All-Star. At a young age, how did that come about, and how did you find it?
Well, as I say, I trained with MegaSlam. Obviously, Brad Flash being the promoter, I think he were doing a few shows at the time with All-Star. He tried a few lads out, me being one of them. Me and him had a match. It was Valentine's Day on 2011, I want to say. First match on card. I thought it went well, to say it was my first big match there. I mean, it were all in good fun. We enjoyed it. We got through a decent match. The crowd responded really well, to be honest. So I'm happy. Met a few new faces. So.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, again, from speaking to people, the holiday camps scene definitely seems like a rite of passage for British wrestlers.
It certainly is, yeah. I mean, a lot happens on holiday camps. There's a lot going off. I think Jay got a nail on head. It's not particularly wrestling fans that are there. They're there for a bit of entertainment. Parents sit bar, propping bar up, having a few drinks. Kids just enjoying themselves. Big foam hammers hitting us, and it's good fun all around, I think.
That's it. I mean, the good guys have got to be super good, and the bad guys have got to be pantomime bad kind of thing. So, but a great place to work on character development and stuff like that. I'm hearing about. So let's get the generic stuff out of the way. I'll ask this of everyone just because I'm interested as to what makes people think I'm going to go do that. Yeah, well, you're a wrestling fan at a young age. Did you sort of think, right, okay, that's something I want to do? Did you come into it by mistake or just pure luck?
So when SmackDown aired on Sky One, I used to watch it with my great granddad. I grew up with my nan and granddad, so when I visited my great grandparents, I suppose it's the equivalent of visiting your grandparents on a weekend. So I watched SmackDown with my great granddad. He passed away when I was 9, so then I was a little bit lost. I ended up watching. Stayed up late with my uncle watching Monday Night Raw after that. Obviously, as I got a little bit older, we had a bit of a sketchy relationship due to our personal problems, really. And then, as I got a little bit older, my dad used to record the pay-per-views on a Sunday night, and I always tried to get Monday morning off school just so I could watch them. I think that's where professional wrestling, I think, come from. Before that, my earliest sporting memory, I'd say, was Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield.
Wow.
And it's like, watching that, it's like, I want to do what they're doing. I want to be a badass like Mike Tyson. So trying to get into like a more hands-on sport.
Competitive.
More competitive sport, as well as trying to get involved with professional wrestling. I did amateur wrestling for about a year and a half, maybe when I was 12, 13. I stopped after a little while, caused a bit of friction with times, because at the time my mum worked night shifts, so the times just overlapped and she was late for work, and so I took it upon myself to stop. As I got a little bit older, I'd have been back end of 14, coming up to 15 years old. Me and Jay started professional wrestling. It was a place in Doncaster. I want to say BPW. I think Jay touched up on it a little bit in his talk.
Like the old school training ground for 1PW kind of thing, was it? Some association.
Yeah, I think it was back end of 1PW closing down. They had a few like offsprings schools from that. This one that we was involved with closing down. We met Brad Taylor, Brad Flash through a seminar, and we got on with MegaSlam. We trained there for about 3 months before he put on a bit of an in-house show. That was in Rotherham. That went all right. I mean, we were all pretty much young kids at the time, and we didn't really know what we were doing. The whole show were a bit of a cluster, but again, friends and family, they seemed to enjoy it. So I enjoyed performing. I know everybody else did. Again, met a good few names there. But yeah, it all stemmed from that, and then gradually it was like on-job training. We just kind of grew from that, doing working men's clubs and then inevitably camp shows. So that was fun. Training were a little bit different back then as well. Like, again, I know Jay picked up on it. A lot of back rooms in pubs and bumping on mattresses, or even just floors at times. It were brutal. And now, as I said, training at PPW, the first time I walked in this great big warehouse with a nice cushy ring, it's like, ooh, a little bit too good to be true. I like trying to find all bad points, but touch wood, I couldn't, so I stuck with them.
That's awesome. You're the first person to mention amateur wrestling, because obviously that's huge in America. A lot of amateur wrestling sort of seems very key to the sport American side, but it's not something I've ever heard of over here. I didn't even know we did amateur wrestling over here, kind of thing.
That's fine.
So, yeah, dude, that's a very cool box to tick, because, like I said, that seems to be like the benchmark, stateside. But I didn't even know we did it over here. So that's kind of what was that like when you was doing it? Was it obviously it's a totally different world, but did you find it useful in the sense of like movements and technique and stuff?
Yeah, I think it's been mentioned before with jiu-jitsu. I think it was Vucic that mentioned it a lot, helping with footwork and ring positioning, and even just body movements and where to grab and this, that, and other. It does help in the long run. I think what I'm doing now, it doesn't necessarily shine through. I think my repertoire as I've got older has changed a little bit. So I don't necessarily do that side of things anymore. Not to say I can't, I just prefer a different slow down pace, maybe.
Yeah, I'd sort of say, definitely suits, the Lawson persona, the character, the aura. It's going to be sort of more slower, methodical, kind of, not as, transition sort of thing. So, yeah. But yeah, I was just kind of made me smile because, like, so say you're the first person that's ever actually made reference to amateur wrestling kind of thing, at a younger age. So that's pretty cool, dude.
Tried in early days to try and put as much into it. I mean, now you look at guys like Brock Lesnar, who's obviously got an MMA background. Ken Shamrock back in the day. You've got Ronda Rousey now. Even Shayna Baszler's, stemmed from other sports. I thought at the time that's a little bit different because everybody's doing slams. Everybody were doing more professional wrestling. Whereas I thought, if I get this in, it's going to stand out a little bit. And I think at the time it did. So
that's it. And yeah, like you say, it's just something that stands out. Like we've talked about it with different people. It's just finding that sort of niche, that sort of thing that makes you a little bit different to everybody else, just so you don't get lost in the herd kind of thing. Which is where the characters come in for me, which everybody I've spoken to recently, and I think it's very much a pursuit sort of thing, is you guys are very much free to develop your characters, to work on your characters, to treat them, and just create whatever it is you want to create.
Yeah, 100%. For freedom, it is a really good skill. I mean, in terms of character and gimmicks, it's not something I've struggled with, but I'd say it's been more of a weaker point for me. I had, after MegaSlam days, I had probably 7 or 8 years away, worked a normal job, put on a bit of weight. I think that was the main reason for coming back, because at the time I worked in a care home when COVID arrived, because I was a carer. And I contracted COVID and I was in a bit of a bad way. And obviously I ballooned up to just shy of 21 stone, so I was naturally quite big. And like that was realisation. It's like, right, it's time to get back on track, get my life together again, lose a bit of weight, potentially get back into wrestling. Because when I started back with PPW from it opening, I didn't necessarily want to get back into wrestling. I wanted to do something that I knew I enjoyed, just to try and lose weight and make myself feel a bit better and occupy my spare time. And then quite early on, Liam is like really big on character work and gimmicks, and I was a little bit stuck. So I think one night I'm still looking in the mirror and I'm thinking, what a damn mess. What character would I suit? And the only thing I could think of was some fella sat in a bar getting drunk, trying to start fights with people. So it's like that was my first character back with PPW. I used that for a little bit while I tried to lose weight and get myself back in shape. I put it out probably 4 or 5 times on the house shows. And then that's when I started teaming with Jay Vertigo again. And we created the Cyber Fight League as we're in now. So it's just graduated, and it's a work in progress still, especially for me. I think Jay's a little bit more easygoing with it all, but yeah.
Well, it seems like you have got that freedom. Like you say, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, because I think all characters are never 100% complete kind of thing. There's always bits and bobs that you can do to them, to make them better, or to just change this or freshen it up. And yeah, man, I sort of like anybody who follows you, obviously, I'll tag you in stuff when I upload this and whatnot. But you just look at the picture that I used for this graphic. I said to you, man, that just screams like Brody Lee to me. Like the whole, just the face, dotted with the beard, the darkness. And it's just, I think, you kind of come across with that sort of, like I said, just that aura, man, that persona of just somebody you would not want to fuck with.
I have had that comparison to Brody Lee a couple of times, to be fair, so I'll take it. I'm happy with that. There could be a lot worse people to be compared to.
So yeah, obviously with, as you sort of said, with Pursuit. So how did that come about? Then did they get in contact with you? Did you sort of just see it pop up near you and think, right, okay? Obviously, you said you got back into it, not so much just to be on shows or anything, but from a fitness side of things.
Yes.
Obviously, I don't think there's much that can compare with cardio when it comes to like wrestling and stuff. It's just, yeah. I think the closest thing, I spoke to somebody ages ago, a guy called Joseph Biggs, and CrossFit kind of came up, and he sort of said it's kind of the closest comparison that he could do to wrestling because it's very stop start, and it's very sort of like different paced. Yeah, obviously wrestling, awesome cardio, great exercise. But yeah, did you get in contact with Pursuits? Did you just turn up one day and be like, right, okay, let's do this again?
Yeah, I contacted them. It was just as the lockdown was ending for COVID, so a lot of places were only taking X amount of trainees. I'd reached out to a couple of places, but they were full up. I looked at one down in Grimsby, and they had spaces available as I'd contacted PPW. So for sake of distance travel, it's like, right, Sheffield's pretty much on my doorstep. It's a 15-minute drive. We'll go there first, see what it looks like, and go from there. And as I say, I walked in, I was absolutely blown away. I were expecting just a dull, cold warehouse with a couple of crash mats, and I walk in, there's lights, it was full of other guys, and a nice ring to bump in. Like I've never trained in a ring as a full-time thing. It were always in as I said, back rooms or a pub. So,
on the grass, on the floor. Yeah, on a mattress. Jay touched on it last week, kind of thing where he sort of said, there's like 7 or 8 of you in like an older ring that just literally had like no give kind of thing, and it was just awful. You probably took years off your spine just bumping on it a few times.
Yeah, I used to be 6'3". I've shrunk a little bit. I'm about 6'1" now. I remember once actually wrestling in a boxing ring, and it was 10 feet. I could never get pinned. If I stretched, if I starfished, I'd never get pinned. So just try and keep your arms and make yourself small, and then work from that. But yeah, a nice 16-foot ring to work in, do these house shows. It's really nice.
Nice. I was going to ask you like that, sort of, because looking at your pics and stuff, obviously it's hard to gauge, but I'm kind of looking at you and like you're a tall guy. I can kind of see that just by looking at the pictures and whatever. But that seems to be something more that's around, because British wrestling for years and years, there's been built guys, well-shaped guys, but nobody really taller than 6 foot kind of thing. They're all kind of the same height. But I mean, within Pursuit, obviously there's you, Kemper. Music Man seems to be about the same height as Kemper based on that match I watched.
Yeah, I think Kemper's a couple of inches maybe, but yeah, I mean, back in day, I was always a bigger guy. So now when I'm training with Kemper, it's like he can pick me up. He F5'd me a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, this is the first time I've been thrown about like this, and I loved it. I said, if we get the chance to wrestle on a show or at PPW, we're doing that. It was awesome.
That'd be a good spot as well, man. But I think I obviously we mentioned the Marty Dossers earlier, but Alan's quite tallish as well. But he's just a big guy, isn't he?
Oh yeah. I don't think video does him any justice. He's a big guy. I think he's same match as me in height wise. Yeah. I think currently I don't know if I'm out of turn saying this, but we're both currently on the weight loss journey as well. So we're kind of supporting each other through likes online, and I think we're both getting to where we need to be. He's doing phenomenal, to be honest. He's doing brilliantly. He's getting out there. I know he's doing a lot for True Grit at the minute, which is nice to see. He did a show for True Grit, and it were in a church. It's like, wow, what a cool venue.
That's Left Bank. Yeah. All of the lead shows are at Left Bank. It is an awesome venue. Massive props to True Grit for finding it, because it is just you go in there aesthetically, visually, it looks awesome. They've got a ladder match at the next True Grit show for the tag titles. So there you go. If they're in the tag titles, that'll be the petition. I want to see Cyber Fight Factory or Fight League versus Big Business for the titles.
As I say, my name can be top of that position.
Throw an Aspo in there as well, and you can kick Nash's arse a few times, probably.
Yeah, happily.
Well, talking of shows, First Pursuit obviously coming up very soon. I've kind of unintentionally fallen into obviously talking to a lot of you guys at Pursuit. It's been really good timing for me because I say it's all leading up to the first show for a general audience. How are you feeling about it, man? You psyched for it? You happy for it? You getting yourself prepared?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Card so far is looking pretty good, really good, in fact. A lot of homegrown talents on there, and I know for a fact we'll shine. Yeah. Whoever of us is on it, we will shine regardless. We've got some international talent in, obviously some guys from up Leeds. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really good show, and it's nice to finally see Pursuit getting tickets sold, because we've put on these in-house shows for quite some time. I think we're on 20. Oh. Yeah, 19. I think 20 is coming up. So yeah, I know trainees have been asking for paid shows for quite a while as well. So yeah, it's nice to see that we're finally doing it.
That's it. And yeah, because I mean, obviously, if people don't know, again, I'll post a link in the description. But yeah, you know, every month or so, you know, Pursuit uploads a show onto YouTube, onto the YouTube channel, just showcasing what you guys can do. And it's obviously, I've mentioned it before. I'm trying not to repeat myself from based on other interviews, but like the TikToks and stuff, you know, you guys have got eyes on you, like in the thousands, and some even like some of them have got millions of views. So that must pop you, you know, just being like involved in that and knowing that the eyes are on you.
Yeah, it's nice to see, because obviously TikTok's not just UK, is it? It's worldwide. So there could be people in China, Spain, Germany, Italy, and I think that's proven. We've got 3 guys going to Spain, Mexico, Spain. Yeah. Kemper, Nathan Black, and Ellis Barker, 3 amazing wrestlers. 3 amazing wrestlers, 3 really nice gents as well, to be honest. And yeah, they absolutely deserve it. As do a lot of trainees deserve it to be going out and performing, not just all over UK, but in different countries and really getting the name out. I mean, let's look at Leon. He is absolutely everywhere at the minute. He was at AEW. He was a security man on SmackDown with Darius. It's like, yeah, wrestling for GCW. He's going places.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I think, again, that just kind of speaks volumes for the school itself, what you guys are accomplishing. You know, I think it's kind of becoming like a proven, wherever you trained, Pursuit kind of thing. Right, okay, automatically ticked. We know you're good. You know, you know what you're doing. Let's crack on, kind of thing. Because, yeah, that's the thing about British. I sort of said before, British wrestling is at a place now where you guys, or a lot of people, are getting trained by, like, you know, the best Britain have ever produced, kind of thing. You're right, Liam's, Nathan Cruz's, Matt Myers, Rampages, you know, all those guys are now training the next bunch of people. And I just think it's an evolution of British wrestling.
Definitely. I mean, we've touched on it many times. The scene at the minute is just brilliant. There's so many great companies out there. The fact that WWE have NXT UK, to me, just speaks volumes. You know, there's that many great talents that they need their own brand. We're winning, aren't we?
Exactly. That's it. I mean, obviously, I know you said you kind of got back into it on the fitness side of things, but now, you know, have you been bitten by the bug again? Are you looking to venture out and get booked as many places as possible, or are you just kind of, you still got it like in the head, like, right, it's just a fitness thing, you know, it's just for my health, or are you just like, no, sorry, let's do this, let's get, you know, bookings, I want to do this every weekend?
Do you know what? I'm at a point now where I think I'm 31. If this is my last chance to make professional wrestling a career, then I'm going to get a damn good go. Probably the past 5 or 6 months, I thought, you know what, actually, I think I can get on these shows. I think I can be doing it again. I think the grind's different for me now because I work 60 hours a week in a bleeding dog food factory. Recently married, 3 kids at home, you know what I mean? So the grind's different now. If I can get to a show, I'll make it and I'll help out where I can. However, when I was 19, I could jump in a car Friday morning and not come back till Tuesday evening. But now it's I've got more responsibilities, unfortunately. I say unfortunately, I mean, yeah, I'm being a family man, you know?
I know what I mean. Unfortunately for wrestling, personally, it's awesome. But yeah, for wrestling, unfortunately, but you know, you won't have it any other way, kind of thing. So, it made me laugh when I was talking to Nash ages ago, and he's kind of saying like, you know, his missus is in charge of his bookings. You know, it's basically saying, you know, I just go where she tells me to go. She makes the bookings, and she says if I'm available or not. That works. You know, just don't piss off the boss.
That sounds familiar. Yeah, she knows I wrote them more than I do for work, and it's like, oh, I'm going to go to this show on this day. No, you're not. You're working a night shift. Oh, maybe not then. Maybe try and squeeze it in. I don't know.
But that's it. You got to do what you got to do. But I think that's the thing as well. Obviously, with like, you know, the schools and the scene at the minute, you know what I mean, there is that leeway where you can just go and do it on a weekend, or you can go and train. Or, you know, if you had no other commitments, you could probably make a living out of it, you know, within a year or two. But if you can't do that, you've still got that freedom and enjoyment of just doing it part-time, I suppose is the terminology.
Yeah, I think if the scene 15 years ago were like anything like it is now, then I don't think I'd even work. I think I'd be wrestling full-time and just, you know, getting as many places as I can be, doing as absolute much as I can be. But again, circumstances change and it's not viable at the minute. Well, not to say I'm not trying, you know, I'm always open for bookings now. I've started getting a little bit more content online, as you've seen with my TikTok and my Instagram. So it's there for people to see. There's always that choice. Again, Jay Vertigo's getting out. He's getting quite a few shows at the minute. We go hand in hand as a team, so there's always that choice through Jay if he needs a team, if the company needs a team to perform. We're always there, you know. I can, if I know I'm going to get on a show, I can work a little bit, you know what I mean, try and swindle a few things. But I think at this point I've got to pick my battles. If I'm going to ring in sick or book an holiday day, just set up a ring. As much as I'd like to, the risk just isn't great enough, unfortunately.
No, that's understandable. You know, anybody should understand that. And you know, it shouldn't be held against you. It's, you know, it's just life. You know what I mean? As you said, you've got commitments. You know, you've got kids, you've got a wife, you've got bills to pay, you've got, you know, a roof over your head. So yeah, you're not going to jeopardize that for the sake of putting up a ring.
Potential.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, Jay's that's a perfect shout. Obviously, like I say, I was kind of saying this to Jay last week. He seems to be expanding his horizons. So through him, like I said, if anybody needs a tag match, tag wrestling is coming back again. I'm seeing more and more tag matches on shows. And I might be presumptuous of this, but I'm not actually, because they've announced tag titles match for the October show, True Grit. So I think, you know, True Grit are going to focus on tag wrestling a bit more over the next few months. So just as a tag team, you guys have, you know, I think you've got open doors.
Yeah, I think tag team wrestling's kind of been pushed aside since, well, quite a few years, I think. Yeah, I mean, we've had the odd tag match, we've had the odd good tag team, but now we have got a lot of good tag teams around the UK scene, even like mainstream wrestling, AEW, WWE, Ring of Honor. We've got some phenomenal tag teams that you can tell they've worked together for a while. They've got that chemistry. They obviously know what they're doing in the ring. And it's just nice to see it put out a little bit more. Gives it more variety, because singles matches are all right, aren't they? But I think we sometimes just need a little bit more variety on shows. Which again is where the characters come in. I think if you had a show, go on. Yeah, if you had a show just full of technical wrestlers, hats off to technical wrestling. But I think once you've seen it, you've seen it. You want to move on and have a little bit of something else. I think the way people's minds are running now with technology, Instagram and TikTok and all this, I think we've got a lower attention span. We need, a little bit more boom, boom, boom than what we did 10 years ago when it weren't quite a big thing. So
I think we're all right. I think it may be the younger fans that they're sort of got to try and because dude, I've got a 5-year-old who now, thanks to YouTube, 5-minute videos on YouTube, struggles to get through a 20-minute episode of anything kind of thing. He's watching something for 5 minutes, he's like, can I put something else on? It's like, and it's just the attention span. It is. It's got to be quick. It's got to be poppy. It's got to be flash. But I think through that, you kind of learn to appreciate the slower pace stuff. I know I did as a fan growing up. Obviously, when I was a kid, I probably didn't appreciate, the Di Malenkos or the early Eddie Guerreros, those kind of guys. I didn't appreciate them when I was younger. But as an older fan, I go back and watch them now and be like, this shit's awesome.
I'm exactly the same. When I was a kid, it were Kane and Jeff Hardy. Kane for obvious reasons because he's cool. And Jeff Hardy, again, for obvious reasons, is cool. Doing all this cool stuff, flying around, and and now I can watch a Dean Malenko match and watch him do bleeding arm bars for 10 minutes straight, and I'd be like, oh wow, this is amazing. Like back then, not so much. Jumping back to Instagram and TikTok, I think you might be the same with kids. They'll be playing a game and it'll last them about 5 minutes and they'll move on to something else, 5 minutes, move on to something else. And when I tell them I had one game that lasted me all year, they're like, huh? How did you manage that?
I've kind of managed to. He's pretty good with his games, to be fair. We've sat and played Mario Party earlier for about an hour and a half. So certain things keep attentions, but visually, it's definitely very quick fire. So, but like you sort of said, that's where it's a blessing and a curse when it comes to some stuff. Like I say, it's just the quick, easy stuff makes things more accessible. Like say, we mentioned Pursuit, TikTok earlier, the YouTube. My only concern with that is it's getting like music. If I can make this comparison of like nobody listens to albums anymore, they just listen to playlists, individual songs. Are people going to stop watching wrestling shows and just watch individual matches?
Yeah, that's a big concern. Again, kids, the same with music. They'll listen to a 20-second clip or a song, and it's like, right, I want to listen to something else. They'll listen to the favourite bit and move on. Like when I were 5 or 6, 7 or 8, whatever, and CDs were first a thing, you had to buy the full CD, listen to 12 songs just to get that little snippet of what you want. Again, I think a lot of this as well, it linked to mental health with him, isn't it? I know mental health is becoming more open and more of a thing. It can't help. We get all these heavily filtered, watered down videos of what perfect should look like, and it's not great.
No, it's false impressions and stuff, and false expectations, unrealistic expectations and whatnots. But I think, like I say, just the whole social media side of things, it's a blessing and a curse. For self-promotion, I think it's a huge plus. It gets you guys out there, as we said earlier. It gets eyes on the prize. I think it was Jay or Mr. Valor that I had this conversation with last week, just talking about social media and getting yourself out there on the platform, just kind of programming yourself to just promote yourself, big yourself up, because that's what it is. You've got to be a little bit cocky about it, or have that kind of confidence to be like, look at me.
Yeah, I mean, self-confidence, I've spoke to Nathan Black about it before. I've always struggled with self-confidence, and the way PPW has brought me up, and I know they've done it for other people, the way they've brought us up is just, it's better than therapy, because they praise you for the good, and if you've done something terrible, they ain't going to bring you down. They're going to give you that constructive criticism. That were all right, but let's try this. And I do think it's how we word things and how we talk to other people. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, working in care, I probably see myself as a bit of an advocate for mental health. again, with some young trainees at PPW, I have spoke to them privately and tried to boost them up. There's a few guys, as I mentioned, like with Alan Kay, on a similar weight loss journey to what we're on. For example, Honest Rye were on a show a couple of months ago, and we speak a lot about weight loss and like fasting and dietary needs and that kind of thing. And again, we just support each other and talk each other through things that are difficult, things that aren't so difficult. It's nice just to have like-minded people that are going the same route you're going, and just being able to talk to one another and, you know, bring it back to basics and understand why we're doing what we're doing, and to understand that goal's not that far away. You know, I've been probably losing weight for 3-4 years maybe. I've lost 5 stone in that time, and that's just taking month by month, week by week. My exercise routines drastically changed. I was doing, to begin, I weightlifted years ago and I bodybuilt years ago when I was wrestling previously, but this time round I started with more cardio based just to shred that weight. I had a personal trainer for about 1.5 years. Me and my now wife, we went together to again support each other. And then I started using another gym with Jay. So me and Jay train together now in terms of putting that weight back on, but in a different manner.
Yeah.
And he pushes me. It's funny, it's gone full circle, because as I was stopping weightlifting previously, he was starting, and now he's built like a brick house and I'm not, and he's giving me that advice that I was giving him 10 years ago. You know what I mean? But he really pushes me.
That's good though, man. It's good, like you say, it's just good to have that sort of like you again. It's like a lot of stuff within British wrestling. You're kind of pushing each other, you're elevating each other. You're there, you're offering that support, whether it be on a weight loss journey, in training, self-confidence, promotions, promos. It's just it's like you're guiding each other and you're helping each other out. But it's nice. You need that. It just makes it easier. I know from when I've done other stuff, if I'm doing like a weight loss thing or this, that, the other, if I've got somebody doing it with me, then it's a lot easier, because you kind of like you're helping each other. You don't want to let your mate down, or they don't want to let you down, and you just kind of like, even if it's just sending pictures of what you've eaten, it's like, I've eaten good tonight, and they'll be like, oh, well done, and then you do the same, and it gets you through to the next day, and then through to the next day. And it's a nice environment, or it's nice to have those kind of people around you.
Yeah.
Kudos. That's one of the things. Again, it seems to be something that comes up when I talk about Pursuit, is just kind of like the family atmosphere. You guys are a self-proclaimed group of misfits who have this really weird family. Yeah,
definitely. If we all went on a night out, you won't think of us together. You've got a clown over this side, a man from future over this side, postmodern guy over this side. It's like, wow. To sit back and look, it's like, where have these all come from? It's definitely a dysfunctional family, because going back to Leon, when I'm seeing him doing what he's doing, it's like, I've not even trained him, and I've got this enormous sense of pride for him. And it's like, at his age as well, I just think in 10 years' time, if he sticks to it, where's he going to be? Same way a lot of younger guys that are just getting into it for the first time. I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, right, there's definitely potential there. I've given pointers from my experience, as I know a lot of more veteran types will. They'll give that watered down advice to try and bring the younger generation up, which is nice, because like 16 years ago when I first started, 16, 17 years, wherever it were, we didn't have that. I mean, we talk about kayfabe, it were a bit of a thing. It's like, right, we're going to drill you, and then we might tell you a little bit about psychology. We might tell you a little bit how getting bookings works. It's like, right, I've been bumping on an hardwood floor for 6 months. Give me something, I'm begging you. Whereas now it's like, you're straight into a school. It's like, right, this is the psychology behind what we're doing, and this is how we do this, and that's how we do that. It's like, I've only been bumping for 10 minutes. That's so different. But it's good. It's a very big positive. Probably described it a bit wrong, but yeah, it's definitely a positive thing. We can bring up new talents, better talents now. Definitely better talents. If people understand why they're doing what they're doing, I think they're more inclined to do it better.
Exactly. And I think as well, because there's that many promotions out there now, and because the scene's thriving as it is, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, people saw each other as competition. You know, there's only so many promotions, there's only so many bookings. You know what I mean? I might give you a bit of advice, but I'm not gonna give you all the advice because I don't want you to be better than me.
I don't want,
you know, that's my booking.
spot.
Yeah, that's my spot kind of thing. Whereas I don't think that's an issue now. I think, you know, there's that many shows out there, so many good promotions. I was saying before, I don't think anybody is really more than 20 minutes away from a show at any given point. I think you're half an hour away from any school at any given point. So I don't think people have to see each other as competition as much now. So obviously, yeah, they're going to be more giving in that information and sort of just training.
Yeah, definitely. As I say, I'm Doncaster based, so I'm a 20-minute train ride away from most school places. Obviously, we've got Hull, we've got Grimsby, there's Leeds, and then obviously Sheffield. That's all in a very small radius of where I'm from. So you think you go a little bit further north, then you're talking Newcastle way on. Obviously, you've got North Wrestling, which I think is probably, if not one of the best probably promotions there is at the minute. I've been there for just helping with ring and crowd control a couple of times. The atmosphere is absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. You feel, we know what's happening. We're hearing it all backstage. We're going to watch. We're going to make sure fans are not getting too rowdy or whatever we're doing at that time. And it's like, we're fans there again. We know what's happening. We're watching it. We're enjoying it, and we're getting into it. We're cheering, and again, just the overall atmosphere is amazing.
Big shout out to North. I do need to get myself there at some point. I watch a lot of the matches on YouTube, kind of thing. It just, like you sort of said, it just seems an amazing atmosphere. It's a bunch of Geordies, watching wrestling, and it's going to be a little bit gnarly, a little bit aggro, but in a good way. It's just going to be electric. That's is the word. Raj, I was speaking there. I'll use their tongue. It's going to get a little bit Raj. Anybody watching from Newcastle, please don't unsubscribe. Please don't stop watching. I apologize. But yeah, North Awesome. Obviously, they just recently had the Slater feud. Leon versus Liam. Was you there for that one? Did you go up?
I missed it, unfortunately. It's the first show I've missed all year, and I'm absolutely devastated. I've watched it back a couple of times. That's what you crave for, isn't it? I've won titles, I've won tag belts, I've won more tournaments than I dare to imagine way back when, but nothing really meant anything. And that moment where spoiler alert, moment where he took the belt and he went to the ground and gave him a hug, oh God, you crave for them moments, don't you? That's what it's all about. That for me was like the plateau for the feud, the plateau for North, for PPW, for Liam and for Leon. Just everything culminated in that one moment. And then to have Darius come out and raise his hand, and then the rest of the roster come out and raise his hand, it's just, wow. That's what wrestling's about. It's not about the cool moves or any of that, or jumping off the balconies or whatever. It's about moments like that.
That's it. And that's another thing. Yeah. Obviously, the balcony spots, the flippy flop, it's all good. But in 2 or 3 years, it's the moment you remember. I've had this conversation numerous times from different angles, talking to different people. But yeah, I think it's easy to forget that moments make wrestling. And that's what people should be striving for. But you don't get those moments unless you've got the story, unless you've got the emotion. The people need to be emotionally invested to feel the moment.
I watched out of context, retirement match for Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair, and I watched it. I was actually showing my wife, so I was trying to show her some more epic matches, some more key points in history, like just to get her up to speed. And I showed her that match, and I remember this absolute 5-star showcase. Don't get me wrong, it's still amazing, but I just didn't feel the same without watching that big build up. The match alone is great, but the match alone just doesn't quite get everything. And I know, obviously, going back to Liam and Leon, the promos that the cut leading up to it and the way the whole thing was packaged together, whoever did that videography, absolute 10 out of 10 job, because they got everything that needed to be told. They told that story in 5 minutes, and it brought everything together. I'll happily compare them two matches. Happily.
No. But the thing is, it's not as daft as somebody like, if you've actually thought, it's student and teacher, it's mentor versus, next generation. Even though obviously, they're like 10 years apart, and obviously, Leon coming through Pursuit. I kind of built it when I saw it was announced. I kind of, put it on social media like, student versus teacher kind of thing, and it was that vibe. Which matches up very much psychologically the same as the HBK Ric Flair thing.
Definitely. Leon, actually, I've got a funny story for Leon. When he got booked for 1PW, when they made the big resurgence, I was stoked. I spoke to him at training, like, I'm well happy that you got on it. It's like, they're the shows that made me want to start training essentially locally to be a wrestler. It was like, I think Pac were on it at Doncaster Dome, and there were a triple threat match between AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and Christopher Daniels.
Yep.
And that match, like, right, I want to do that. I'm going to get in there, and that's going to be me in 10 years. And I remember all them feelings that I had going with my dad to watch it as a kid, and all these feelings of watching live professional wrestling just come flooding back. And when I told him this, he says, I were only 2 when they finished. I feel so old. When I was wrestling first time around, I were probably about Leon's age, and there were a guy training who were like 36, and I thought, why is he an old man training? This is a bit weird, isn't it? And now I'm that old man. Yeah, it's a foreshadowing of me,
dude. But I mean, obviously 1PW is a very shady area at the minute, but the original one, I mean, I remember seeing Pac versus AJ. That's where Pac officially leveled up, kind of thing. And that triple threat match you just mentioned, that came like a few months after. And obviously they did it at Destination X in the main event, kind of thing. So we got to see it live, and it's like, yes. But they're the kind of shows that these guys are getting booked on, and not to keep repeating myself, but it just shows where British wrestling is at. There's just that much talent out there that they're just getting booked left, right, and centre, but they're getting booked on the big shows. And like you sort of said, man, it's only going to be anybody who's watching them now, enjoy them, because they will be gone before we know it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Godspeed, greener pastures, well, not greener pastures, but, bigger promotions, more eyes. But I can see Leon working New Japan within the next 5 years.
Another guy, going back to Leon, Robbie X. I mean, obviously, I trained with him in the really early days when he was first starting to train, just after the 1PW had shut. And to watch him perform at 1PW, it's like full circle. I was probably 6 rows back with my wife watching. I'm like, oh God, I was welling up watching him. It's like, I know he's so happy to be here, and that sense of pride, yeah.
And the Dome or the Lincoln, because obviously he's been obviously at both, kind of thing. But,
it was Dome that we
when he won the belt. Was
it
the
open weight belt? Yeah.
That was a banging match as well. But guys like Leo, but again, that kind of, Leo Rush comes over, Frankie Kazarian comes over, and they don't look any better than, the guys that we're producing now, kind of thing. And it's just, it's craziness.
It speaks volumes. It really does speak volumes to where the British promotions have succeeded, because as I said, probably 15 years ago, you had a couple of big names that were coming up, and then rest seemed to be like lower trainees, and now all them lower trainees are moved the way up, and they've essentially helped the younger guys come up. And I think, again, watering down that information, watering down that knowledge to another generation, I think that's where we've gone right. Because if we'd have kept it as it were, like keeping, essentially withholding that information, withholding that knowledge from the younger guys, we wouldn't have NXT UK, we wouldn't have these big promotions all over with hundreds of stars knocking around. You know, obviously having people like the guys we've just mentioned come over, and to like Leo Rush to try and elevate our guys, we're on par, like you said. That elevation, it's all right for the name and the star power, but wrestling wise, they're on par.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I just think, as I say, not so much obviously YPW because of the shadiness at the minute, but it's just like you say, you mentioned North. I think obviously, you had Gangrel, Scotty turn up at North show recently. We've had Rev Pro over the last weekend, just having amazing names. But I think these guys want to come over and work with our guys now, whilst they're still in their prime. It's not like they're coming over, when they're older and past it just for a paycheck. They actually want to come over and compete against the British talent, just to kind of measure it up. I think, just to kind of assess just how good they are, because the reputation is just building and building.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It's showing no signs of stopping. As I say, a lot of people, even that are training at PPW, the talent that we've got is just, it's amazing. And that's going to keep elevating, that's going to keep growing. I think in terms of other countries, I think the UK has the best talent. And I'll say that confidently, we have the best talent.
I will second that. I mean, obviously we're biased, but I do agree, and there is obviously a discussion to be had, and I think a very strong argument to back up that comment. But let's bring it back to Lawson, dude. Obviously, we're bigging up you. We're talking about going forward. Yeah, obviously we've kind of discussed your availability, but yeah, you want to get out there. You've got the bug again. You're loving wrestling, taking the bumps. Obviously, you've mentioned titles in the past. Titles going forward, promotions going forward. You got a list, or you got some boxes to tick off?
We're getting a list. First things first, I want that PPW belt, because when that first come out, I loved it. It just looks so good, and the amount of effort that Nathan put into designing it really shines through. And I see it at training, and I've got this little superstition: I won't lay hands on it until I've won it. And it's just sat there looking at me, like, I want it. I think I've got Music Man to contend with at the minute now. But yeah, in terms of going forward, my main goal, realistically, to help keep producing the younger guys, get them up to scratch, get them out there and getting names. I want to feel that sense of pride on my behalf. If I'm feeling that, God knows what Liam's feeling, God knows what Nathan Black's feeling, you know what I mean? But personally, I'm trying to get down to some title shows. I know they've just had one that I've missed, unfortunately, this weekend. I do want to try and get down there at some point, even just to help out, show my face. True Grit's definitely in my visions. Rise is obviously in there. I've spoke with Danny a few times. I have sent him a few emails. I'm just waiting to maybe hear back and see where we go moving forward. I've got some work with old school wrestling promotions coming up. I've been offered some parts on there, although the date's undecided as of yet. I'm in at one more round at some point.
Nice.
Can't remember the date. I think it's 29th of September. Possibly, I think so. It's online anyway, so check out the Facebook page.
I'll look that up actually. I'm a bit hurt actually. I'm not even kept myself in the loop with that. I normally do the artwork for one more round, but I'm not actually. Yeah, I'm out of the loop for a few years with that. But obviously, great cause, great show. Obviously, if we see you on there, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think he's been a little bit more quiet this year to previous years, from what I gather. I've not seen as much promotion for it, but it is out there. They have got a decent card from what I've seen so far. It's shaping up to be a really good show. Again, I think I'm giving myself 4 or 5 years. Maybe when I get to 35, see where I stand there. As I say, I'm 31 at the minute. But I think my main goal, realistically speaking, is North. Even if it's just a pre-show, I want to be in the ring and I want to feel that atmosphere. I want to soak it all in. Yeah.
Awesome, man. And honestly, dude, yeah, I can't see why that wouldn't happen. As I sort of said earlier, within the British scene, there's a few of you that just stand out just purely, because of your height. And then when you actually see you go in the ring, it's like, okay, yeah, you're not a British Great Khali. You can actually work. You can do this kind of thing. If you want to start throwing chops, by all means. But you are technically sound. You're good at what you do. And yeah, I can't honestly. I would say hand on heart, I would expect to see you in North then at some point.
Nice, thank you.
Within that deadline, I'll be very surprised if it doesn't.
I'll work towards it, definitely.
Definitely, dude. Right, I've just clocked the time. Do you want to plug your socials? Do you want to get the eyes on the prize? I know you're more of an Insta guy, so I will obviously tag you in that within all my posts.
Yeah, I think all my tags are saying Carl with a K .Lawson.7. More Instagram for my wrestling content. My Facebook page is just my Facebook page. I post stuff on it. I haven't got a professional page on Facebook. I have just opened up a Threads account. I'm not sure how that works yet, but it's got some on there. And TikTok, I've got a bit of content on TikTok. I think whatever's on TikTok tends to be on Instagram anyway, because I think they all link themselves, don't they? So.
On the side, quick sidebar then before I let you go, dude. Obviously, social media, self-promotion, wrestler. Is it something you guys are encouraged to do, or do you think it's like an age thing? Is it something more like the younguns do, the newer trainees? They come into school with like accounts already set up across the board as a professional wrestler.
For me, it's follow suit. We see how well PPW are doing on TikTok and on Instagram. It's like, right, if they can do that, we're affiliated with them. We can do that as well. I'm going to put as much content out there as I can. I trust in PPW that they share my posts as I do theirs, and they do. I think everything I've put out, they've had very kind words for me. They have from day one, as they have with other trainees, and it's nice to have that support from them. Like you said, with younger wrestlers, I think that's just a thing they do. There's a kid, 26, I think he is, OJ Barton. I think you're going to be seeing him on some PPW house shows in the near future, I think. But he'll record himself training and he'll put it on his Instagram. And it's nice to see how he's progressed, because he's not been at it long. Same with other guys. Obviously, PPW do a beginner's course, which is a really good course for... Sorry. It's a really good course for anyone trying to break into training and find the feet. Really friendly from what I've seen of it. And if anyone's a little bit nervous to like try and do it, that's where you need to start, because it's just so welcoming. Anyway, I digress. From that, there's been quite a few new starters come up who's just progressed so rapidly in a 6-month space of time. I've mentioned OJ Barton, Onish Rai, just a few to name, Matthias. Just young guys, eager, hungry, willing to learn, open like their brains are like sponges. They're just taking everything in and growing from it. And it's nice to see, because I feel like an handful of them are going to be the future. I really do.
I've said it, I said it before, dude. I just think Pursuit's building that reputation where it's automatically going to be, if you guys like to sound old, but you've got handing out your CVs kind of thing. As soon as you see that on there, it's like, right, okay, tick, sorted, crack on kind of thing. It's very reminiscent to somebody saying years ago, like if they saw that somebody was trained by Rampage Brown, it's like, right, cool, yeah, you can go.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, I think Pursuit's kind of getting to that point where it's like, right, okay, you were trained there, you're good to go kind of thing. So yes, obviously I will tag your socials, I will plug everything I can for you on there. Dude, it's just been a genuine pleasure. It's just been a very fun. Thank you for sitting down and talking to me. Obviously, we'll speak again soon. I will hopefully see you in Sheffield on the 23rd. Dude, it's been a genuine pleasure. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure, mate.